welcome back to the Caldera SMP. Today, we have an established goal which we need to accomplish. That goal being to create a bamboo farm. That way the syndicate can establish a home base of operations in the Caldera, as well as have something to sell in the shop we will soon create. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the bamboo farm without having some bamboo blocks to build the farm upon first, mainly because I wanted to keep the theme as bamboo to match what the farm was making. And so, I decided to AFK a bit as the bamboo grew, occasionally harvesting it and transforming it into its block form. Every time I would get enough blocks to make a significant dent in the building of the frame, I would add those blocks onto the build in the hopes that they would be the last ones, ending up disappointed every time. After roughly an hour of collecting bamboo and placing it into this frame, I decided I was bored and went out to collect some sand to make glass, followed by going on a bit of a cave exploration to collect some more resources. After this resource gathering, I began the collecting and building grind all over again, only stopping to go out and find a river to collect some ink sacs for black dye, which I later used to create some gray glass panes to use on the front of the bamboo farm. Now, I would have used tinted glass here, except I didn't have any amethyst, and I didn't want to go through the effort of finding a geode. Upon returning to the Caldera after finding an adequate amount of ink for the dye, Sora informed me that he was ready to open a new portal, a portal to the underworld, which he called the Nether. Once he opened the portal with his interdimensional powers, me and another member of the Caldera, going by the nickname Void, entered this new section of the world, myself going to collect some quartz to build some observers for the farm, and Void trying to find some sort of block only available in the Nether, that which I still to this day don't know. Unluckily, after only a few minutes of exploration, we entered a basalt delta biome, which is my least favorite of all the biomes due to the large abundance of magma cubes, which, living up to their reputation, caused for my death. In case you couldn't tell, magma cubes are number 1 on my list of mobs I would remove from the game, given the choice. As I was running back to retrieve my stuff, Void ended up dying, meaning that not only would I need to retrieve my stuff, but also go and retrieve their items and bring them back to them, which after a few more deaths I managed to do. Upon returning from the Nether and giving Void their items back, I went out on a bit of an exploration to find some sheep, and to get some wool, which I would later use to try to make a syndicate banner to claim the bamboo farm as ours. That is, before I realized that I would need a mob skull to actually make the right banner pattern to make the banner properly. And, after almost dying to an unsuspected creeper, I made it back to the Caldera for a nice night's rest. The following day, I was met by Void, who decided to gift me some cookies, which I gladly accepted and began munching on. I believed that they might have been cursed, because soon after, I went out to do some more exploring and ended up dying just a couple of times. After finally getting back to the Caldera with my stuff, I went down strip mining for some diamonds, and ran upon a cave, which I decided to go exploring, later realizing that this was a big mistake, as I ended up suffocating in fallen gravel trying to find a way out of the cave system. Which reminds me, I need to find a better way to explore cave systems to where I'm not going to get lost. Another death later, I managed to retrieve my stuff again, and gathered up the observers which I had intended on making hours prior, and put them into place on the farm. That's right, I didn't forget what the goal of the video was quite yet. After that, I began work on building the collection systems, which required me to clear out a bunch of water underneath the building without any sponges, which proved to be quite a difficult time, and me being me, I decided to use stone, which later became difficult to mine while under the water. After I ended up getting the rails of the system put into place, I logged out for the night, as it was already 4 in the morning, and I needed to get up at a decent time the next day. The following morning, after a good night's rest, my mind was nice and cleared up, and I finally made that enchanting table I mentioned in the last video, which I used to enchant all of my tools, including my almost broken pickaxe, which I used to mine up some iron in a cave near the caldera. Unfortunately, as what tends to occur, I ended up dying in the caves, and what followed was another long string of deaths. So, I had lost all my stuff on a greedy mission to go and get some more iron. Luckily, I had stashed my enchanting table and leftover diamonds in an ender chest for safekeeping before I had gone into the cave, so my valuables were somewhat safe. It still meant that I needed to go out and do some more mining for more iron. This time, I decided to go for the safer option, that being strip mining, which ended up acquiring me roughly half a stack, so pretty good. After I returned to the jungle temple base in the caldera, I was met with Void once again, and this time they had something to show me. They led me down a small water chute to their base, which they had been building at the very bottom of the caldera lake, and they ended up showing me their journal within the base. It seemed to be a bit interesting, just descriptions of what they had done upon the server and a bit of lore, but there was a bit of a corrupted bit at the very end, that which I wasn't sure what it would be. Anyways, after this wild encounter, I went back up to the still unfinished bamboo farm and started up the minecart hopper. However, as it turns out, me being me, I placed the hopper next to the redstone block powering the rails, which stopped any items from flowing into the chest placed below. While a normal person might have figured out what was wrong in just a couple of minutes, it took me a solid 15 to figure out what was actually going on and fix it. Following this, I took a small trip to the Nether to get some glowstone so I could decorate and finish up building the main section of the bamboo farm, following it up by placing some fences and decorative stairs along the front of the building. So that's the story of how I made the Syndicate's first building in the caldera, a bamboo farm which would supply one of the many resources which would be sold in the Syndicate's shop once it was constructed. While it may be thought to be a simple task, as with many things to do with me, it wasn't quite as easy as initially thought, and ended up causing a lot of trouble. Losing some stuff, and backtracking quite a few times. Overall, it did end up being pretty relieving to finally finish the farm there at the end, and I'm glad to have gotten it done, no matter how much time and effort it took, because we would eventually gain control of the economy. If the shop goes as planned, which hopefully it will. Unfortunately, this caused me to get put back very far in terms of weapons and armor, which I didn't know at the time. This basically meant I was in a pretty bad position and was very susceptible to other players being able to push me around, which is not something that I want. While right now this isn't as apparent, it later becomes much, much more apparent. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, thank you, and peace out.